Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we have a very special deck. We are playing Julian Jakobovits' Eternal Weekend Winning Legacy deck. This is from the European Eternal Weekend in Prague. It's just gone this weekend just past, and this is the deck list that took it all down. It's a Rug Delver deck, so I'm quite happy about that. I love playing Delver strategies. I think there's a lot of interesting decisions to be made, and you can really leverage a bit of play skill with the selection of decision trees you get. So, this deck list is quite heavily in the red-blue ballpark. So we have Delver of Secrets, Dragon's Rage Channeler as sort of our primary threats that we're going to be leading the game out with, and we're going to be closing the game with things like Murktide Regent and Questing Druid, which is often going to be a card advantage engine, but can also be a pretty reasonable creature that can scale up, because we're going to be playing a lot of spells, so it's going to scale up nicely. Now, there's some really interesting things in this deck list that you don't see very often. So, the first few ones that really spring to mind here is Portent. Now, you don't see Portent very often. This is like Ponder, except you draw a card at the beginning of the next upkeep. Now, what this does, which is kind of interesting to me, is two things. Firstly, it gives us the ability to put another sorcery card in our graveyard. Now, for the purpose of getting Delirium, having sorceries can sometimes be a little bit awkward. You basically just have Ponder in a lot of Delver deck lists. So we have the Portent, which can do some impressive things in that regard. And even though we do get the draw one turn later than just having it straight away from a Ponder, it's still doing very close to Pondery type things. And this is a card that saw a lot of play back in the day when Miracles was like the top deck. So, you know, it's still got some pedigree as a legacy card, even if it doesn't look as good as Ponder, but we can't run 6 Ponders, so we're running the next best thing. So that's interesting to me. There's also 4 Mishra's Bauble in this deck, which means we're trying to, this alongside with the Portent, means we're really trying to leverage Dragon's Rage Channel and get this Delirious as often as possible. So we're trying to do that game plan as reliably as we can. So that's quite an interesting approach. The other cards that are sort of the flex slots in Delver really is the Unholy Heat and the Stern Dismissal. Stern Dismissal is a really interesting one. I've seen a lot of people playing Seal of Removal lately, but Stern Dismissal is what Julian's gone for here. It's a bounce spell that only hits creatures or enchantments. Now you might think, okay, enchantments, is that really what we want to be hitting? And the reason why we have a spell that hits enchantments is because of the Up the Beanstalk deck. So we're living in a world where 4 times Leyline Binding is quite a common piece of removal that people are playing. So what we can do is use this to get rid of our opponent's threat, or quite often in some matchups, we can be bouncing our opponent's Leyline at end step to get ourselves another threat, and if our opponent doesn't have the mana up, we can then have that threat and do some good things with it. There's obviously going to be loads of other little corner cases where it's doing stuff as well, but it's kind of like an upgrade from just having something like a Seal of Removal, because it does hit some other things, has that extra utility built in, and only being 1 mana means we have the option of doing multiple things in turn with it. You know, our whole deck functions around playing lots and lots of 1-drops, you know, lots of 1 mana spells, so we can kind of spin the wheels of our deck and keep going, milling cards with our Dragon's Rage Channeler to get the perfect draws, or flooping together a few spells that we can really sort of smash our opponents with. So Stern Dismissal is kind of going to fit into that category. Once upon a time, people used to play Vapor Snag. I don't think the 1 life you get off something like a Vapor Snag is as good as the ability to bounce enchantments, especially when, you know, Leyline Bindings and stuff are kicking around these days. Other than that, you've got the things you'd expect, you know, the Brainstorms, the Ponders, Lightning Bolts, Force of Wills, Daze. But we only have the 3 Questing Druids. A lot of the Rug decks lately have been playing 4, so we're kind of eschewing one of those to get the Portents and stuff online so we can have more reliable Dragon's Rage Channelers. So I'm definitely interested to see how this pans out. The mana base is also worth talking about, in my opinion. We are heavy into blue-reds. We have 4 Volcanic Islands and only 1 Trop here. So we're not necessarily going all in on this Questing Druid. We can still just cast the red side of it and not worry about the green side. We might miss out on the value of playing it, but if we've drawn 2 cards with it already, it's probably going to be fine. We have the 4 Wastelands, which is where I always want to be when I'm playing Delver strategies. And because we only have 1 Trop, it means we've found little space for a basic island, which is an interesting one because it allows us to do something rather potent in the sideboard, and that is the Blood Moon, which can really shut down some of the scary decks that want to be messing with our strategy using various lands. For example, the lands deck or Selesnya Depths, that sort of thing. So this is kind of, you know, we're not exactly redefining the wheel, but there are quite a lot of different things going on in this list that is worth talking about, especially if you're really into this sort of strategy. Going over the sideboard before we jump in, we've got some Counterbalance, we've got some Force of Negation, got a little bit of Graveyard Hate in Surgical Extraction and Grafdigger's Cage, but a little bit lighter on Surgical Extraction type effects than you would ordinarily see in a list like this. Normally you'd see 2, sometimes 3 depending on the meta. So that's kind of interesting to me too. A bit more removal for big stuff in the form of Unholy Heat. Some Pyroblast, which is going to be pointed at some Murktide Regents at some point in this league, I'm sure. And we have a couple of Meltdowns for the artifact decks. So, you know, a pretty good selection of tools available to us. And I like some of the little quirks and differences here. And I'm really excited to see how it pans out, because I'm always looking at innovations in the Rug Delver strategy, because that's my personal preference when it comes to playing Delver decks. Back in the day, a long time ago, I used to play the classic Rug Delvers. So when people innovate around it, it's always interesting to me. Now, this is kind of blue-red Delver with a very light green splash. So some might say it's not even fully Rug, but I'm going to count it. All right, deck tech over with. Remember to like and subscribe. It helps the channel out. And why not check out the Patreon? You can enter a monthly raffle by joining the lowest tier of my Patreon. And then that puts you into a raffle to get a free donation deck on my channel once a month. So why not sign up if you've got a little bit of spare cash and you want to help me out? By all means, I appreciate it. All right, it's time to play Julian Jakobovits' European Eternal Weekend winning deck list. Let's jam. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Alright, this is our opening hand for round 1. We don't really have any pressure, and we don't have any cantrips to find pressure, so I'm going to send this one back. Alright, this kind of has a game plan. I think we'll keep this one. Brainstorm can also hide a multitude of sins. I'm going to put this Volcanic back and go ahead. Our opponent is mulled to 5, so if they are some sort of combo deck that's all in on one spell, we can at least puncture that with our Brainstorm. Sorry, our Force of Will pitching the Brainstorm. Alright, opponent, let's see what sort of deck you're playing. A Volcanic Island, a Delver of Secrets. I don't think we want to be fighting over this with a Force of Will. We're going to take a little bit of damage from this, but we're going to get there. Alright, so we're going to use the Mishra's Bauble trick here. If you're unfamiliar with this, what we do is we look at our own library and then we decide if we want the card on top. Because we don't want the card on top, we need to crack a fetch. So I think we're going to get the island here because you don't want to get wasted off and we have other mana sources anyway. That makes things slightly awkward for us if we're going to be drawing a Dragon's Rage Channeler next turn. But we'll be having to fetch a red source for that anyway. So let's just get the island. And then we can draw a card that way. This way we're not exposed to Wastelands, which are definitely in our opponent's deck. We're probably going to know what the top card of our opponent's library is anyway as well. Alright, so it's a land or a creature, most likely. There's a tropical island from our opponent. So we could even be on a mirror match here. Not really a surprise given the deck we're playing just won one of the biggest legacy tournaments of the year. I'm sure lots of people are going to be trying to jam it. So we might have a weird run of playing against mirror matches today, we'll see. Alright, so now we have ourselves a Dragon's Rage Channeler. We can play Dragon's Rage Channeler around a Daze. That sounds good to me. Now we have a choice here whether or not we ponder. If we ponder, we have a chance of flipping this even if this ponder gets countered. So I think we are going to give this a go. Because this will be the sorcery for our graveyard. A Wasteland. That's not really the one I want just yet, I don't think. So I think we're going to put this into our graveyard for now. A Daze is nice. The Force of Will, less nice, but we can shuffle that away. The Murktide is something I'm interested in for later as well. So what we can do is if we have to use the Daze, we can guarantee that our Dragon's Rage Channeler will turn into a 3/3 because we can mill the Murktide into our graveyard. Now whether or not we want to mill the Murktide remains to be seen. Seek the Beast. This is an interesting one. This is quite a lot of free cards, and if we take this out, they don't get the back end of it either, and our opponent is pretty low on resources. So I think I will counter this, and I'm going to get our Volcanic Island back to our hands so it's safe from any potential Wastelands. If we put this into our graveyard, we have Delirium. Does mean we are potentially drawing the Force of Will, but we can always Brainstorm it away. Alright, so now we have a 3-3. If they have a Daze, we can fight over it. Alright, they're not cracking that Bauble, which is interesting to me. They've done that. They were supposed to do that on our turn, so that they could do the Delver flip trick. Because you stack the triggers how you want after already knowing what it is. Seal of Removal. Okay, that makes me glad I didn't go in on a Murktide here. So our opponent draws a card there. We do have this Force of Will. I think we're probably just pitching Force of Will to the Force of Will. Which means we're probably playing this out so that we can Brainstorm if we need to. But we're going to start the beats now. We've got a whole grip full of cards, our opponent doesn't. This is kind of the mulligan helping us out a little bit. They only mulliganed one more than us, to be fair. But we targeted their card advantage spell with our counter spell. What have you got for us? Delver of Secrets? Nothing. Okay. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. This is close to being Delirious, but isn't. Are we supposed to Questing Druid here? Our opponent's got 2 cards in hand still. Yep, so there's a Bauble. So the enchantment, they can put into their graveyard at will, which will basically give them 3 of their 4 Delirium types. So any fetch land or Wasteland will get them cooking. And obviously, okay, so they left whatever card was on the top. So we're going to take 1 from the Delver here. And in the end step, we're going to cast our Seek the Beast. So our opponent is now Hellbent. And this is a 3-3 when they want it to be. So, let's get this Volk. Let's Seek the Beast. Another Questing Druid. Do I even want another Questing Druid right now? Like, we can just pull ahead in cards. That seems okay. But if we're Seeking the Beast with that, we're not really getting... I'm going to put this in the graveyard for now, I think. Alright. This is much more like what I was after, to be honest. Simple 1-mana threats. I would quite like a Lightning Bolt or something to make sure that we don't get dunzoed here. So our play this turn is going to be Delver of Secrets into a Brainstorm. And then we'll see what we do with our remaining mana. Let's attack. Let's see if they want to go in with their Seal of Removal yet. They can just bounce their own Delver and trade here if that's what's important to them. But we have so many cards in hand. Right, so we'll jam this Delver. Like, we're almost certainly playing this Volcanic Island, aren't we? But let's Brainstorm first. And set some stuff up here. Flooded Strand. Put that into our graveyard for now. We're just looking for burn spells here so we can... Wowzers trousers. That is not a bad selection of the old Magic the Gathering cards, eh? So we're going to keep Force of Will to pitch to Force of Will. We have this Lightning Bolt if we want it, but we're probably just going to play the Channeler right now. And then we're putting Brainstorm and Volcanic Island on top. We're playing this Volcanic Island. If we have to... So we're going to play the Channeler out. So I think we put the Brainstorm on top and then the Volcanic Island. If we have to use our Force of Will, we can mill it off the top. Otherwise, we can Lightning Bolt in our upkeep to get rid of that Volcanic Island in response to the Delver trigger. So our counterspell is probably getting saved for something like a Murktide. Alright, so this time they've stacked their Mishra's Bauble trigger correctly. So they get to see what the card is in our turn, and then they decide if they want it. Okay, so they found a Preordain. Sure, so they're running Preordain instead of Portent. What does our opponent want to do here? We have more resources, so I'm happy to trade 1 for 1 here. So I would counterspell like a Seek the Beast or a Murktide. Those are the things I'm interested in dealing with. A Brainstorm. That's good, but it's not what we're counterspelling here. This is about what's in play at this point. We'd love them to fire off a Murktide this turn that we can just relatively cleanly Force of Will here. So I have 1 card left afterwards. I guess we could get stung by a Daze awkwardly. Right, it took a long time resolving that Brainstorm. Clearly some difficult choices. So doing an Unholy Heat on our Dragon's Rage Channeler. I don't think this is where we're fighting because we do get to kill one of these in a second. I have 1 card left on top of in their hand, sorry. We don't have a green source for our Questing Druid yet. Right, so we're going to line and bolt their Dragon's Rage Channeler. They can Seal of Removal to keep their own creature alive here, if they think that's the important thing. Put this into our graveyard to keep the spells flowing. And then we can reveal our Brainstorm as we drew it up. Go attacks, see what they want to do here. Flipping the Delver is obvious. Bouncing the Delver out of play is obviously quite annoying for us. We're going to get a full 6 in here, are we? Let's play another big guy. Brainstorm now, what are we actually going to do there? We're looking for like... I don't really know, because we'll only end up with 1 card left in hand, and we don't really want a land drop here. So I'm going to leave this open to play around a Daze, so that our Force of Will doesn't get blown out. And if we need an emergency Brainstorm for something, we can do that. They can bash us for 3, and double Lightning Bolt will kill us, but we have the Force of Will to stop that. It does mean our Insectile Aberration has to be back on blocks. Murktide Regent. There we go. This is the thing we were saving it for this whole time. Do we need a Wasteland? Not really. That's not what this game's about. We just want burn spells. Stern Dismissal. That is interesting. We can bounce their creature out of play and sort of buy ourselves some time. I think that's okay. Also meant if they had a main deck Pyroblast, that gives us an answer to this Murktide. We will trade 1 for 1 if they give us the option. Alright, they've decided not to. So then we can draw this card. We want to attack first here, so they have to block here or use their Seal of Removal. The reason we attack first rather than play anything out is in case they... Well, for when they use a Seal of Removal, we might want to redeploy the creature. Alright, so they're hitting our Delver, sure. And they're going to take some damage here. We will fire off our Brainstorm first. Also, something about Stern Dismissal that's useful is the fact that it does flip our Delver of Secrets, whereas Seal of Removal doesn't. Right, we're seeing a cracking of a Scalding Tarn here. So they got a removal spell. A Brainstorm. I think there's an option for us to try and Brainstorm to hit a Daze there, since we are brainstorming anyway this turn. But I really want to see if they block or not first. Because if they don't block, then we can Brainstorm for a Lightning Bolt. Alright, so they are... Oh. Yeah, okay, they're going for the blocks here. We're supposed to Brainstorm first there. That was just an error on my part. So we get more looks once we know what their block is. A Daze... no, that's not what I'm about right now. Force of Will, Force of Will... So 2 of these go back. Just put Brainstorm. And this is a tricky one. Would I rather have the Stern Dismissal up, but potentially have to pitch it to a Force of Will? Or just float that on top? So we'll be pitching the... We're not going to need to bounce creature this turn cycle, are we? So I'd rather pitch this Brainstorm. So we'll do it like that. And then we'll deploy this. And it will flip next turn. And we're all good. Because we might be pitching our Brainstorm to our Force of Will, I think we're right to put the Stern Dismissal as a top card of our library. Alright. We got there. Let's go to sideboarding. So, a mirror match. You know what's good in mirror matches? Counterbalance. So, what is bad in mirror matches is trying to trade 2 for 1 on counter spells. Pyroblast, get in my deck, please. Blood Moon is an interesting one. But I'm not really sure if that's where I want to be. I think we can probably trim a Daze. And it's a case of, do I want Blood Moons in this match? I don't think so. It's not really about that. I think we just... An Unholy Heat would be better than a Daze here as well. I think on the play, maybe we want another Daze. And we can trim a Bauble for it. But I think on the draw, we're just going to want removal. Because we're probably going to be playing catch up a little bit sometimes. Alright. Seems fine to me. We got quite a control-y hand here. And we have a Brainstorm to find more stuff. This is going to become a battle of attrition, so we're going to keep this so that we have a bunch of cards. Like, we'll find a threat at some point. Now we know the matchup, we know it's going to be a bit grindy. There is a Delver. There is a Bauble. Alright. I think we will Bauble ourselves and do the trick to filter our own draws. A Brainstorm. I quite like a Brainstorm. I think I am okay to put that on, to leave that on top and play this. We do want to kill this Delver of Secrets. I think we do it in our opponent's turn, so that if they're Daze in, I guess. Alright. I think I want to see if the Delver's flipping or not, and see if we've got more time because they might make a juicier target. It flipped, revealing a Brainstorm. Okay. I think we can afford to take the 3 and then play around a Daze here. Right, we just need to make sure that our resources trade up in a good way. Another Delver is certainly irritating. And they can fix it with the Brainstorm if they want to. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. Is that more important? I don't think so right now because we're playing catch-up. I think we fire this off on the Delver here. I don't believe I want to play a Dragon's Rage Channeler into a Daze. Like, we might take another 3 damage for it. But our plan is just to answer their threats and then mount a way of winning the game. We have a sort of answer for the Murktide in the form of Stern Dismissal, so we can jump that out of play and remove the counters and undo all their graveyard cards that they've exiled for no reason at that point. So that's kind of what we're hoping to achieve with this Stern Dismissal. Alright, that was going to unsurprisingly flip this turn. Yep, another Brainstorm, sure. Septile Aberration, yep, we go down to 14 here. If our opponent doesn't play anything, it's kind of signaling that they're going to seek the beast in our turn. There's that Brainstorm that they've already shown us. They're getting a lot of sculpting over there, though. The hand might just be good enough that just trying to answer their stuff and then do our bits and pieces might not work. They should have been able to sculpt themselves towards the Pressure Use and 1-drops. When that fails, play the Murktide. Which is always a very scary play. But our opponent's got 4 cards in hand, so we're winning on a metric. So I think we begin with a Dragon's Rage Channeler. And we sacrifice this for a Volcanic. I would like to fire off this Lightning Bolt now. We can play around Daze. And if our opponent just has like a whole flurry of Lightning Bolts, then this sort of slow measured line will come back to bite us. Delver of Secrets. If we put it into our graveyard, that's going to give us all the types in a second. There we go. How do you feel about Lightning Bolt opponent? So a card they can have is something like a Hydroblast. So they're bolting our guy. Alright, we're just going to reset everything around, are we? I think that means I'm going to... I kind of want to get the basic island here and just fire off. Although I guess we're already in it here, aren't we? So I think we just get the Volk here and try for a Ponder. This can play into a Daze, but I don't think our opponent will Daze a Ponder like this. Oh, no, they did. Okay. So we've got 2 Brainstorms and a Stern Dismissal in hand versus them with a land and 2 mystery cards as well as what they're about to draw off the top of the deck. Right, so there's the land we've seen already. So the reason I didn't get a Trop right there and I wanted to get the Volk is I don't really want to have our only Trop Wastelanded when it's not doing anything. Like if we get 1 green spell off of a Trop, that's fine. That's probably what it needs to do. And that's when I'll fetch it if I have the option. I just don't want to make it so we can't ever cast the backside of our little friends. Alright, so we can bounce this and reset it, but we will need to find a more permanent solution. Which is not always the easiest, but we've got things like Pyroblast, which is a big important card in this sort of matchup. Alright, let's go start with a Brainstorm. It's a good way to start any turn. Okay, so we'll put back a fetch land, and we do want to fetch here to clear these cards. That's kind of interesting. I do kind of want this other land so we can play around some stuff. I think we put back the Brainstorm and then the Misty, and we're gonna... Is that right? And then we take the Misty off. Surveil, but then if we need to crack this... Right, we're gonna put the Brainstorm on top. And play this out. Put this Dragon's Rage Channeler. And we'll try and Stern Dismissal this. We know there's a Brainstorm on top, which is better than an average card. So we'll leave this on top. Alright, our opponent is not inclined to fight over that. So we can get Brainstorm, and then we can fire that off next turn. We already know there's a fetch on top after that. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They've got another land they can just deploy as a little guy. Oh, they're running Uros. That's interesting. Is that their sort of mirror breaker tech? That will certainly break us in some ways for sure. Uro definitely goes over the top of a lot of the things we're doing, so we need to find a way out of this game now. I think dedicate a lot of time and resources to Uro, and we can Pyroblast, so that might buy us some time. But we need our Dragon's Rage Channeler to get clocking, because they're above 20 life now. We do have more time on clock, which unfortunately might be a very relevant factor in this one, because we will have to play another game after this if I lose this one. So that's why it's always pertinent to try and make quick decisions in the Delver Mirror, because it is a grindy one. So we draw this. If we crack this now, we see one more card. But if we cast this Brainstorm, we mill that card anyway. So it's kind of much of a muchness, and we can save our fetch. So let's have a little look at the top of our library. Put this into our graveyard, please. And show me what you've got, deck. Tell me your secrets. A Daze. I will be paying for this. Alright, so they're just trying to protect their green source here. So we found the Pyroblast, which is one of the ones we wanted. Found a Wasteland, which is something we wanted as well. We found a Dragon's Rage Channeler, which is, again, something we wanted. So we want all 4 of these cards, but that's not how Brainstorm works. So what is most important? If we have to... So our plan here is to Pyroblast the Uro and then Wasteland away afterwards. But we don't get to do all of that if we play the Dragon's Rage Channeler. I think we need the Channeler. Alternatively, we attack with the Channeler. We put the Channeler on top so that we just have the Pyroblast. So we only have to crack if we're trying to get around through a Daze. Then where do we put the other cards? I guess we put the Ponder. So we put the Dragon's Rage Channeler down and then the Ponder. So we can ponder into the stuff we need next turn if things change. Maybe this is a slightly defensive line, but by Pyroblasting the Uro on the stack, we deny them a card and 3 life, which might end up being relevant. Alright, we took a long time on that turn, and now our clock is low. But they can play that trop that they bounce with their... So that Daze was more about bouncing their trop than it was anything else, because if we found a Wasteland and we took out their green source, then they're not going to enjoy that very much. Right, so they're going to put this Uro onto the stack. We're going to Pyroblast it. We're going to leave our Ponder on top. Alright, that exchange worked out quite well for us. So this time we start off with a Ponder. We know we already want one card that's on top. Oh my god, these cards are all good. Change of plan. I think I would rather... Okay, so put the Delver down, then the Channeler, then the Counterbalance. We'll not shuffle. We'll play this land out. We will Counterbalance here. We'll leave this on top. We'll strip out one of your green sources to make Uro more difficult to cast. And then we'll bash away for 3. So we've kind of shut off their cantrips for a turn as well. And if something really sketchy happens, we need to crack our fetch. And we can do that. And get a different, fresh look from our Counterbalance. We are relatively far ahead. Alright. This is not going to end well for them. This might have just been a tester, but this is a pretty high prize to gain. The Counterbalance already paid for itself. Misty Rainforest. They're just trying to reload their graveyard at this point. So we've got Dragon's Rage Channeler on top. And then we've got a Delver underneath that. We're not really flush with 3 drops, so we're not going to be able to counter this Uro very easily. And maybe I was wrong to keep the Delver on top. We could have put the Delver one down and then surveil it away. So we might be Scalding Tarning that away this turn. We'll see what our opponent's up to. Seek the Beast. I think we are getting rid of our counter. We are getting rid of the Delver anyway, so I will crack this now. And because of the amount of mana we have, I am kind of tempted to get this trop. So that if we find the Questing Druid, we can do more with it. But I still think we're supposed to get the Volk. Alright, let's have a look. Murktide Regent, you say? That's a big lad. And considering the size of our graveyard, we can probably make that without losing Delirium. Let's see what they found off of their little friend. A Daze and a Questing Druid. It's not going to be the one. So we put them to half their life total, and then we'll have a Murktide that's a lethal threat on its own, and then 2 Dragon's Rage Channelers that will be lethal. And if they just play an Uro, that's not enough to stop us. They're going to need to do more. I know we don't have anything here as well, so we need to just F6 this turn and make sure that we keep ahead of them on clock. Yep, they're just playing another Seek the Beast here. Right, a Wasteland and a Scalding Tarn. Oh wait, no, that's our library, isn't it? So what do they find? A Seal of Removal and a Lightning Bolt. Okay. And those cards will disappear as well now. Let's go attacks. Alright, they've had enough because they know that we're just going to get them. I don't think they're supposed to fire off both of those Seek the Beast like that. I guess they fired the first one off. And then they kind of have to fire the second one off because it goes away. So it's kind of awkward. But maybe if they wait for that Seek the Beast in our turn, they get a little bit more purchase out of it. And maybe they can ponder their way into something. But yeah, pretty good game, that one. Let's go to round 2. Right, this is a classic-y sort of Delver hand. We're going to keep this. We're going to go for turn 1. Actually, we can go for turn 1 Delver off of a basic island. And that sort of solves our we're bad into Wasteland with this hand problem. Because if we play Channeler, our opponent answers it with something like a Force, and then untaps, Wastelands us, then we're just done until we find other lands. Whereas we can get a basic island, play the Delver, and then we can try and ponder into a red source for the Channeler. And if that doesn't work, we still have a Wasteland to do stuff with anyway, and we're holding up Force of Will. I think that play is a little safer. And might start beating down quicker as well, to be fair. Right, let's get basic island. By being pretty much a blue-red deck, it does give us the option of having a basic island in our deck without it being really bad. Which is nice, to be honest. Scalding Tarn from our opponent. Are we going to be in another mirror? We might be. A lightning bolt. Nope, I don't think we fight over that. Not into a Daze. I'll play this out. Then we'll cast a Ponder around a Daze, and then we'll Wasteland our opponent. Bauble, Force of Will. I don't really want these. We're going to go any order in shuffle, I think. Murktide, that's not that exciting. Because we have 2 Wastelands, we will be going in on this Wasteland strategy. Not something I necessarily like doing in the mirror, but sometimes it can cheese your games, and sometimes the hand is just one that says we need to do that. Now, we might be brainstorming away this Wasteland, but, you know, we can see. They didn't play a threat with 1 mana last turn. Right, so they have a basic island, so we might be in a full mirror here. Sure, I think we have to let that go. Okay, Force of Will came back. Let's brainstorm. Okay, so we have a problem. We have a very significant problem here. So we'll put back a Wasteland, I guess. No, we put something back first. So we put back the Murktide, and then the Wasteland. Is that right? No. If we put down... Put back a Brainstorm, and then a Wasteland. Next time we play the Delver, and then it will flip to the Brainstorm, and then the Brainstorm, when we cast it, will be doing stuff. Oh, didn't play our Wasteland out. That was a slight error there. That means we can't play around a Daze if we need to Force the Will something, which is a serious problem. Alright, our opponent did not play... did not flip their Delver, so that's nice. It gives us time to draw through this Brainstorm lock. Our opponent has a Wasteland, and they are pondering... I like our opponent's position more than ours right now. They've got the threat on board, and they're also not Brainstorm locked. Right, we'll take one of their finest damages. Play this Wasteland. Play our little friend. And then we can hold up Force of Will around Daze. And if they want to Wasteland our Wasteland, then that's fine. I don't really care. Right, what are they going to find here? A Brainstorm. Pretty good one. We are going to mirror their play next turn. So might be keeping our opponent off of red mana with this Wasteland though. But they can always Wasteland our Wasteland before they play their red source. But they don't know about the other Wasteland. Right, so they are Wastelanding our Wasteland. I will float a mana so they can't cast anything in their first main. Well, they obviously can, but we can play around a Daze. Alright. We're going to get crashed in for 3 here. So they're going to be ahead in the race for now. Now we're going to see a Brainstorm. We are indeed. I don't think I want to Force of Will this Brainstorm, but it was something that I was thinking about. I would Daze this Brainstorm, but I'm not going to Force of Will it. I don't want to pitch 2 cards to one. We haven't given our opponent a Daze chance really yet. So, Flooded Strand. They're going to play a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Could be. Alright. Given the nature of our hand, are we supposed to Force of Will this? I don't think so. The Force of Will has to be for Murktide Regent in this matchup. Like post board, when we get the Pyroblast, sure we can point things, but we're obviously not going to have the Force of Will at that point. Yes, we'll reveal the Brainstorm. I will fire off this Brainstorm. This is a pretty good Daze target for our opponent. Okay, they didn't have the Daze. We are still Brainstorm locked. This is not great. We do get to try and draw through a little bit quicker using our Bauble. It's not great, is it? Let's see what our opponent's drawing over there. Does that mean he wants a Wasteland here? I don't think it does. Does that mean he wants to be back on blocks here? Maybe. Yuck. Yeah. I think our opponent has this one. We play things out for a little bit. We don't know what that hand actually is. Maybe we've got a little more purchase than we think we have. But we've Brainstorm locked ourselves twice in this game. So here's an awkward one. And if we'd have fetched the Volcanic, we wouldn't have been playing this game on any land at all. Glad we avoided that. Am I trading my Insectile Aberration? No, because this makes this a 3-power guy on its own. But if we don't trade, what was the point of holding this guy back? I think we do trade here. This is annoying. It does give them Delirium. But it buys us a bit more time, which is kind of all we can hope for. Until our hand pans itself out a bit more. Alright, so this is the turn we Force of Will. Because they are now casting a Murktide. Our opponent will be able to fight over it, potentially. Because they're going to have 3 cards left in hand. The reason I know it's a Murktide is the amount of time our opponent spent paying costs. All the quirks of Magic Gathering Online. So we're going to fire off this Force. We can pay around a Daze. If they force back, then it's probably game over. They didn't, which means their 1-1 is also going to be a lot slower to clock us. There's that other Murktide Regent we knew about. I suppose we could have, knowing that we had the Murktide Regent, we probably were supposed to pitch the Murktide Regent that time. And that was just a mistake from me there. Alright. A Brainstorm at end step. That's interesting. That suggests to me that there's another Murktide. They just want to make it as big as possible. Okay, we're not a mirror match. They are playing the black mana. Wastelanding doesn't impact whether or not they can cast the Murktide here. Because either taps for 1 or it exiles for 1 from the graveyard. So, not ideal. Yep, plenty of mana for our opponent there. They also now have Delirium again. So we're going to take a bash here. We need to find something. And that something is a land. Lordy. This Daze is real bad. We'd be in a better spot if we'd have pitched the Murktide, knowing that we had the Murktide coming up. That's on me, and if we lose the game because of that, fair enough. But I think the chances are we lose this game because we didn't ever draw a second land. Excluding Wastelands, of course. But alright. They got Bowmasters here, maybe, and we can't really do anything about this. This makes it harder for us to draw out because we can't cantrip our way through. Alright, here comes the Bow Boys. So we take 5 this turn, and then we die next turn. So what does the top of our library need to be? I think this Wasteland is better as mana than anything else. Nope. Did not have anything but spells. No second land there. Yep, that sometimes happens, and that's fine. I don't mind that too much. I think this is a matchup where maybe we do want the Blood Moons. Our opponent will not have any basics in the Grixis build. They might even be the 4-color build. So what do we not want here? I don't want to fight 2-for-1s with like forces. That doesn't feel great to me. I think Questing Druid as a thing is okay, just as a draw 2 cards. I think we probably want to trim on some cantrips somewhere along the lines. Bauble's probably one of the lesser exciting ones, and maybe Portent can go. Get rid of another Portent, and maybe trim 1 Daze. On the play, whether I have a Daze and some of these other things. I do just like having them removed. These matchups do get grindy. I think I want to be overloaded with Dazes. Dragon's Age Channeler is my friend. I will keep this. Also, Pyroblast is one of the best spells in this matchup. So. Have the classic 1-drop and Daze start. So certainly the polar opposite of starts for the last one, where, well, to be fair, our start was okay. It was just the fact that every other turn was bad, to be fair. Alright, opponent, what is your approach going to be? I think we're going to try and save this Daze for a Bowmasters on curve for them, from them. A Delver of Secrets, that's fine. A little bit annoying, but fine. And Mishra's Bauble. Let's see if we can make a big channeler this turn. A land, we didn't really want... Do we want another land? Maybe we do want another land. Let's... Got our opponent's library here. a Misty Rainforest. So we can play a land and then Brainstorm. We can bounce their guy. That's not very exciting. Just to force 1 point of damage through. If we Brainstorm and we do it off of this, that loses us access to Pyroblast. If we Brainstorm with this, then we're going to be a little bit locked for a turn, but I think that's okay. And it's worth it to try and get this into a 3-3. A Ponder is a sorcery that will give us what we need. Put into our graveyard, please. I like some of these cards, some more so than others. I would like to keep the Lightning Bolt though. So I think we put Stern Dismissal on top. Then the Wasteland. We'll play this Mishra's Bauble out. We'll mill this Wasteland. And we can get attacks. We are off to the races here. We'll fire off this Bauble on our opponent's upkeep. Actually, is that correct? Because if there's Bowmasters, we'd rather get the card now. No, I think that's right. Just in case our Daze isn't good enough. Yep, there's a Misty Rainforest we know about. I think that is slightly better than doing it there, just in case things go wrong and they do get a Bowmasters on us. You just want to give them free pings. Right, there's a Stern Dismissal we knew about. And another Pyroblast. Very happy about that one. This Delver is not flipping, so they are falling behind in the race. At some point they'll be able to answer our Dragon's Race Channeler though, and that could be a little bit upsetting for us. Have to sort of rebuild and find another threat. Yep, so another land. Again, Wasteland's not really doing the most there. They're going to attack us for 1. That's why we binned the Wasteland off, because we'd already in a situation where there's stuff on board and all sort of jazz. Sorry, just getting distracted there. Alright, so they're cracking their Flooded Strand's second main. What is this going to be? A Counterbalance, perhaps? No. Just this little guy. Given the nature of our hand, we're probably supposed to Lightning Bolt this in our opponent's turn. Then we let them do the Surveil, because they'll Surveil not knowing whether or not this is living. So that might impact their decisions. A Lightning Bolt targeting our guy. I would like to respond with a Lightning Bolt targeting their guy. I'm supposed to wait till that Surveil resolves, I think. A Questing Druid. Sure, some cards, isn't it? Right, so now they can Surveil, and then I think I will Daze this Lightning Bolt. Did I misclick and put the Druid in my graveyard? I did, didn't I? Well, that's really annoying, isn't it? Put it into a graveyard. Oh, I was sure I clicked that right, but I guess I did not. I was hoping to fire off a Seek the Beast in our opponent's next turn. That's pretty annoying. I milled that Druid over. Right, they get to see what we're drawing. Interesting. Okay. So we can hold up some Dismissal and Pyroblast, and then we can just Seek the Beast in response to a spell if we're looking for something like a Force of... sorry, not Force of Will, we're having Force of Wills. If we're looking for something like a Daze. But generally we can just Seek the Beast and have some more cards to work with on our opponent's turn. Oh, sorry, on our turn, because we cast it on our opponent's turn. Okay, a Lightning Bolt. That's quite a useful one. And they'll probably just start off with a straight up Bolt here. And a Wasteland. That is more annoying. Alright, time to Seek the Beast. Another Channeler. Where is this Wasteland pointed? At our Volk. I guess this has to go into the graveyard then. And we're looking for another red source. Lightning Bolt and our poor little guy. Now we get to Seek the Beast. Murktide and a Blood Moon. Not really spells we can cast right now. That Seek the Beast is not helping us out there. Got another follow-up? Just a Ponder. Okay, I can live with a Ponder. We have their threat covered if we find a red source, but we might just be playing the getting stuck on lands again game. This time we at least had 2 and they wastelanded us, so you know, that's on them that we're behind. That's not on our deck like it was last time. That's a spell we can't cast. Okay. This Singleton Tropical Island certainly not making me feel great right now. Right, there's a Misty we know about. I don't think we're supposed to bounce this now. We can bounce in the end step if we really want to, but I don't think we do that yet. We're not that desperate, but we will be soon. Alright, so we're going to cast this Ponder, and then our opponent is going to play a Bowmasters. But we have to play this Ponder because we need to find our next land drop. Right, here's a Brainstorm. Any sort of counter magic is probably game over here. Like a Bowmasters means the Ponder has to be pretty good. Because then that's 6 power facing down, that's a 2-turn clock. Can I please Ponder? Can. Okay. So the land is the thing we definitely need here. So we'll play out this land and pass. I would like to draw those other 2 cards if I'm being perfectly honest, but we'll see how the turn pans out and whether or not that's the thing we get to do. Like if they play a Bowmasters here, I think we have to kill the Insectile Aberration. Alright, no Bowmasters. There's a Wasteland. Okay. Not really loving that. Now we don't get to double spell. I think we are supposed to try and kill this. So we go and get our Volcanic. We know it's at least safe for this turn cycle now because the Wasteland's already gone. So I think Lightning Bolt is better and we save the Pyroblasts. Although Pyroblast doesn't kill Dragon's Channeler, so maybe that's an error. And yeah, okay. We found a blue source they can't waste us off of. That's something. I'm not sure I'm convinced by our Blood Moon plan that we went for here. A Delver. Okay. Are we in damage control mode where we're just smashing this off? I don't think so. I think we wait and see if it flips and what it reveals. Right, we'll play our own Delver. Our life totals are even. We do have one more card in hand than our opponent, but obviously they're about to untap and draw a card. What are you going to reveal to me? A Pyroblast. I see. Okay. Let's try and destroy this blue permanent. We could wait to our turn to play around Daze, but I think our mana is so hemmed in that the Daze is always going to find a useful target, and we just need to try and be efficient with our mana. Because we don't know how long we're going to have it from. Our opponent's Wasteland, that's pretty hard here. I will not reveal. So Orcish Bowmasters here is a nightmare for us. But I think they would have played it earlier in this game. They drew it and we knew they just drew the Pyroblast. Let's play another thing to feed their Pyroblast. And pass. So we could be attacking for 6 next turn. That could be pretty exciting. A Lightning Bolt, sure. So we know they have an answer for the next one. For the one in play as well. So we're trying to dodge the Murktide. Like, we do have an answer for it, so it's not the end of the world. But it's just such a big thing, and if they have any way of protecting it, then we will lose. Ponder. Yes, I would like to reveal this. Ponder. Alright, so this is just going to eat a Pyroblast here. Probably in the upkeep before we get to start doing pondering things. We'll see. So they're just hoping that we didn't sandbag a Murktide. But we did not. Okay, I like these selections of cards. So I think we put the Brainstorm, then the Strand. It doesn't really matter which way around these two go, does it? I think we put them these way around, so in emergency we at least get to do our thing. So the plan now is we don't have any Tropical Island left in our deck, right? Yeah. So this is just a draw 2 that we get to use the Seek the Beast for, but that's still fine. And we know one of the cards that's drawing is going to be a Brainstorm. We don't need to fire off immediately either. What are our opponent's cards over there? The fact that we pondered, kept, and didn't play a threat turn after we untapped is probably intriguing to our opponent. Alright, so let's Seek the Beast at the end step. It's going to find us a Brainstorm and one other card, provided it resolves. A Brainstorm and a Lightning Bolt. Okay. A Murktide Regent. Okay, I think we begin with a Brainstorm here. As all good turns do. Okay, I quite like a lot on what I'm seeing here. We play this out. We crack this. So what do we not actually want right now? I don't think we need this Stern Dismissal. And I don't really need the Bauble. The Brainstorm's just better as a card. So we'll crack this. We will fire off our Lightning Bolt for the value. Our opponent's life total is not exactly the highest. This will mean we're down on Pyroblast, which could be awkward, but we do at least get the Surveil off of this as well. But being down on another threat. Yeah, I'm down for having another threat, to be honest. Yeah, so having the Pyroblast up isn't the worst because we can just untap and kill the Murktide if they play one. The one side, it can punish us as if they play a Counterbalance, which would be better to hit with the Pyroblast on the stack than it would be in play because we run the risk of them countering our Pyroblast. I think just getting the value and the damage down. Sure. Glad I did not play out that Bauble. Quite far ahead in this race. The Brainstorm from our opponent. We want them to like play a Murktide that they can't really defend, and then let our Pyroblast do some good work and drop our own Murktide. That would be quite a potent one. This Brainstorm not feeling great about it. So if we fire it off, they will kill our Channeler. Or us. And I don't want either of those things to happen. Sure, a Channeler of our opponent's zone. So these might just trade in combat. That could be a little bit awkward for us. Just kind of got to hope that Big Daddy Mercs can get the job done. It's been a pretty good game, lots of back and forth on it. Much better than the one where we just didn't get our second land. I do not believe our opponent is going to attack into our Channeler. Unless they attack with the Orc Army, which would signal they have another Bowmasters, or they want to make us think that they have one. Here is a Delver of Secrets that we knew about. Yep, the trade. I suspected that would happen. Right, we'll play Big Daddy Mercs. This one we play around Daze, so... how many Ponders do we got? 3 Ponders. We can get rid of 2 Ponders. How many Brainstorms? We got loads. What other instance we got? We got a Lightning Bolt in there as well. Yep, so let's just make the biggest Murktide possible. This is a very juicy Pyroblast target. Let's play this. This is into a Daze, but I'm not sure if our opponent's still going to have Daze at this point when they just Brainstormed. Because there's not really a stage of the game where you want Dazes. But it would be good here. Maybe they saw that we had less lands and were worried about it, but we were not doing anything. Yeah, okay. So we correctly played around the Daze with our Murktide. And it will kill our opponent in 1 turn if they can't answer it. So we're trying to dodge like bounce spells and Pyroblasts. Opposing Murktide, we have covered with our Pyroblast. Snuff out. Okay. Pretty good. So now we're going to go to 7. And our opponent is in the driving seat. They're pretty tapped out on cards. But so are we. Okay, a Volcanic Island. If we cast this Brainstorm, we do die. So I think we're better off just drawing... I think we play the land out and just draw another card next turn. We get more draw steps that way. Alright, deck. Give me the goods. That is not the goods. Do we play this out? Is there any point of keeping it in hand? I guess if we get to kill the Bowmasters, it makes our Brainstorm better at this point. But we're going to go to 3, which is Lightning Bolt range. Our opponent has cast a couple of Lightning Bolts this game, though, so they're not odds on to have another one, but it's certainly possible. Alright, I think our opponent is playing a Murktide Regent. Yep, I will Pyroblast this on the stack. Still doesn't solve our immediate problem, though. Neither does that, so we have 1 draw step, and we're going to be on 1 life. I do not feel confident about winning this one. It's been a very good game, though. I can't fault it. It's been sort of Magic the Gathering I like to play. Lots of back and forth. Alright. There's definitely sequences of draws that do it for us here. But that's not one of them. GG opponents. We are donezo there. So 2 mirror matches and we split them 1-1 so far. We did get properly mana screwed and double Brainstorm locked in a game. So I think the odds were against us once we sort of lost in such a fashion, but it's okay. These matchups are always really interesting with lots of moving parts. Let's go to round 3. Alright, so we're on the play. We have a Delver. Let's go. We also have the Delver trick that we can pull. So we're more likely to flip our Delver on turn 2 than normal because of the Bauble. Now there is a school of thought where we should be Baubling our opponent turn 1 just in case they're on some sort of combo deck and we need to have that extra chance of maybe drawing that 1 Force of Will or Daze. But I think we'll just play for the upside of our own hand right now. Maximise our strength. It's like chances are a turn 1 combo deck with a 7-guy hand is going to kill us anyway. Are we in another mirror? Please be like show and tell or something. Alright, we're in another mirror. So what's the top card of our library? Top card of our library is the Murktide Regent. Okay, so we're going to draw before the Delver trigger resolves. So put this on the bottom. The Bauble will draw us the Murktide, and then we resolve the Delver. Yes, I'll reveal this Lightning Bolt. Just snap this off, I think. Get to attacks. Bash away. Yes, we do have to target our opponent with Portent, don't we? Oh, what am I doing? I'm looking at their library and rejiggering it. Whoops. Let's put this on the bottom. And this. And this. Been a while since I've cast a Portent. And I definitely messed that one up. Right, so they can crack and shuffle away. A lightning bolt. Okay, so they had a lightning bolt in hand anyway. Fair enough. And now we know they have a Force of Will in their hand. Oakley dokley. Alright. I don't really want this Stern Dismissal that much. Although it is one of our few answers to Murktide. So maybe we put back the island and a Bauble here. Deploy this. Crack this. Just going to get another Volk. Deploy our Delver. And Bauble. And then we'll do the Bauble trick again to try and flip our Delver. Right, so cracking. So they only have the Force of Will of those cards. Sure. My brain just thought that the Portent was you draw at the beginning of target player's next upkeep. And that's what I thought the target was, but it's not at all. And that was a bit of an embarrassing one there. Let's have a look with our Bauble on ourselves. Questing Druid. Okay, so we'll draw that before the Delver trigger. Give me my little friend. I'll reveal this Force of Will. And we'll start the beatdown. And we're probably going to do a Seek the Beast in our opponent's turn. I think that's worthy of a Force of Will from our opponent. And then we'll follow that up with our Murktide. I think our opponent is about to Seek the Beast. And as I said, I think this is worthy of a Force of Will. So we can Seek the Beast now and maybe find a card. What would we find with a Seek the Beast that would work here? Like a Brainstorm into some other stuff? Because this is until the next end step. Because we're in our end step, we'll get these cards in our next turn as well. Another Force of Will. Alright, so we're all in for our opponent to Seek the Beast. Alright, let's see what it finds. A Delver of Secrets. Alright, that's fine because we're about to drop a big Murktide. They will be playing this Questing Druid into the Delver, which is not nothing. But Murktide, when the dust settles, is where you want to be. This can outclass a Murktide, but not before we kill our opponent with it. Because we bash for 3 this turn, then Murktide's lethal on its own next turn. Now they could flip the Delver and have to throw it under the bus, but that means we push another 3 damage with the Insect Aberration. And our life total is still pretty healthy. A Bauble. Not that exciting. Right, let's cast this. Blue. Blue. So let's get rid of some instants. The sorcerer as well. We'll just go full in on making a big Murktide. We can't make it the maximum size. Would I like to see what our opponent is drawing next turn? Yes, I would. Dragon's Rage Challenge, sure. Bash. Murktide's still lethal though. The Delver is not flipping this turn. And we have a lethal flying threat. So unless the top card of our opponent's library, the card in our opponent's hand, unless that's an answer to Murktide, we have the game. Despite our weird Portent hiccup earlier on. Right, so they're cracking, so they get a fresh draw. Because they don't want that DRC, so they have 1 draw step. Channeler. Okay. They haven't scooped it up, which makes me think that they have a cantrip as the other card they found. No? Main deck Pyroblast is possible in this day and age. Alright, no. They were just off of it. Sure. Okay, so we are in another mirror. 3 for 3 so far. So not really the Magic the Gathering I wanted to play today. But grindy Delver Mirrors it is. So I like our interaction here. Stern Dismissal can reset our opponent's Questing Druid. Daze is on the draw, not so good. Yep, seems fine to me. We will even resolve a Portent correctly. Yeah, I'll keep this one. We have a threat into 2 different cantrips. I know we got burned for keeping 1 land before, but we have a lot of looks at it and we're on the draw. I think this is fine. We can't be wastelanded off of blue. It seems all acceptable to me. Alright. Is there a secret that's going to flip? It's not. So they got a land or a creature or a... Oh, they got a tiger in their deck. Interesting. So we are not on a mirror match. Right, so we lose our creature. Now it's their turn to bash. We have plenty of removal if we can actually piece it together. Let's Brainstorm lock ourselves. That's always fun, isn't it? But we can shuffle away with a Portent if we need to. Okay, we didn't need to. So Murktide, we definitely want one Murktide at some point in this game, but do you need the second one now? I think we put away the Portent because Ponder is just better. And then there, Delver didn't flip this turn, so I think I'm just gonna deploy ourselves. We don't want to get Wastelanded here though. I think we want to play our own Delver here. Alright, we're just in. Now we can take 3 damage if necessary. I haven't set this up. Unholy Heat, sure. So we're going to lose our Delver, but then they're going to lose their Delver. Goodbye, Delver. I didn't play Wasteland though, so not unhappy with that. So Unholy Heat this. Let's try Ponder. The Questing Druid I like. Not really into the Volcanic. I don't really think we want the Daze too much either. We'll not shuffle our library. Play this. We could decide if and when we want the Daze. Our main plan is probably just going to be hold up Lightning Bolt, crack this to shuffle away the Daze, and make a Seek the Beast in our opponent's next turn. So we kind of don't want them to do too much this turn. I hope if Mince can boot, that's going to be a real shiving. Although, actually, no, it would just be a 1-1 because we have the Lightning Bolt up, because we can bolt the boo in response to the trigger. Right, in our upkeep, we will crack this. I think we don't want to get wasted off of red this matchup. A Murktide. I don't think it's time for Murktide. Timed. I don't know. We could Brainstorm here, or we could hold up Lightning Bolt and Questing Druid, which I think is what I want to do. Opponent didn't play any spells yet. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay. So I think we Lightning Bolt this first. And this does play into Daze though. But if they do that, then we can just slam a Murktide. Yeah, I'm okay with doing this. Oh, we're just in. We can Stern Dismissal our own Questing Druid and buy more cards. That's a really interesting play. Alright, let's go and put a Questing Druid into play. Play Delver. Am I Stern Dismissing my Questing Druid to draw more cards later on? That is an interesting play. They're going to try and kill our Questing Druid here. Oh, I love this. I love this a lot. Oh, and it's target creature an opponent controls. Ah, I see. I see. So if we Brainstorm in response, this will still die. That's fine. Now, utility of Stern Dismissal is not quite what I thought it was going to be there. It's weird how some cards have the an opponent controls clause and others don't. It's kind of a bit awkward sometimes. So we can make a Murktide into a Murktide if we really desire. And so we can make a really big Murktide. Or we can make 2 really big Murktides. I'm not going to fire off this Brainstorm yet. Okay, let's go for a little Murktide. Get rid of some lands. Get rid of some creatures. We did get rid of 1 instant here, didn't we? Okay, they're going to Pyroblast this. Or are they? Pyroblast this one, sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now we can just make a bigger one if we want to. Do we want to play this into Daze? I don't think so. Do we want to Brainstorm right now? We're going to be brainstorming anyway. Let's see what opponent's got on top of the library. A land, okay, so that's not that exciting. Right, I will Brainstorm here. And set up our Delver for next turn. Okay, I like having these cards. If they're playing Counterbalance, I would like to have the Pyroblast in hand. So I think that means we put the Ponder and the Channeler on top. I'll put them in the wrong order, haven't I? Oh my god. Oh, that's so sloppy again. I was at a wedding last night, so I'm not 100% of my awakeness. It was a wonderful wedding of a very good friend of mine. So I partied rather hard. Right, no, we're drawing the Dragon's Rage Channeler. No, I did do it right. Okay. Natural Instincts worked out. Ponder. Sure, we're not Pyroblasting this. I don't think I want to Pyroblast that, to be honest. Scalding Tarn. Right, so we're going to flip our Delver. Attack with our Delver. We'll play... We've only got 1 card in hand. Is this the time to just slam the Murktide? I think it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's only going to be one away from max size. What's going to be harder to get in our graveyard? Probably... I know we've got multiple creatures there, actually, yes. So we'll be able to make a flip DRC pretty easily here. A Daze, okay. Time for Daze has long gone. Alright, they're shuffling it away, so they're not actually going to have it, sure. But we've got some junk in our trunk over here. Right, our opponent's got a Murktide coming in. There it is. We can do this on our turn if we want to. What does that play around? Spell Pierce? Sure. And we can play our Dragon's Rage Channeler first. Alright, that's a nice pickup as well. Have a DRC. Destroy this guy. Alright, our opponent's had enough, and we've got the match. So we are 2 and 1 in the mirror. This is like... So we played 2 rug mirrors and won. And we played the 4-colour mirror and lost. Now, obviously, there was some draws and stuff going on there. But yeah, okay. I thought our play was, aside from the obvious sloppy bits that I called myself out for, I thought we played this one all right. We've still got 2 more rounds to go, so I'm going to try and hold it together. I hope we play something that isn't a Delver Mirror, but I can't promise that. Let's get to round 4. Alright, our opening hand is Dragon's Rage Channeler into seeing more cards. We've got removal, we've got Force of Will. We don't have more lands, but hopefully we can find some. I'm going to give it a go. We've got a couple of draws. And we got a Surveil, so we're probably going to bin everything that isn't a land. Wooded Foothills. This could be a Delver. Opponent's a 61 card deck. Is that right? Lava Spike. Alright, our opponent is on some burn. Okay. Interesting. Well, we're not going to take much price of progress damage if we don't have any mana, so. Dragon's Rage Channeler. We need to get this up and running as a 3-3 as soon as possible. Are you... Actually, I don't even think I keep a land at this point. I think anything goes in the graveyard. Because we found the second land, I'm okay doing it. Our opponent isn't going to mess with our mana base. That's what our opponent's got over there. Alright, something happened there with our opponents. They must have disconnected or something, and they did not come back in time. So that is the match won for us, even though we only played 1 turn of Magic. Sometimes life happens and people will have to abandon a game of Magic. You never know what's going on in someone else's life, so no need to be mad about not getting a game there. But we've locked in a positive record, and we did briefly play a deck that wasn't Delver, so let's go into round 5, which is presumably going to be another Delver mirror match. Let's go. On the play for the final round, we have Delver into Daze and Force of Will, just all the classics. So we can lead out on a basic island here. We have no red spells, and that saves us from getting wastelanded, which could jam us up down the line. So I think I'm going to do that. Definitely reached for this basic island more than I thought I would today, which is worth thinking about. Let's see if our opponent is on Delver deck or not. Polluted Delta, okay, that could be. Give us a combo deck or something. Something a bit different to what we played today. Basic island. A Preordain. Okay. So I'm expecting Doomsday or Ad Nauseam Tendrils. Alright, this feels more like a Storm build. But it could be a Delver build that just happens to have a Preordain in. Instead of like the Portent that we're running. I will reveal this Lightning Bolt. I will cast Ponder. Dragon's Rage Channeler, Daze. I don't think we want any of these, so we're going to shuffle. Right, so we found the land if we want it. And I think we do want it. Let's attack. Bashing for 3 lovely points of damage, putting our opponent to 16 life. And it's their turn. A Brainstorm. Interesting. I don't think this is my spot for a Daze yet. We have a Wasteland, so we can sort of clamp down on their mana a little bit and stop them from being able to pay for our Daze. So we kind of have the classic Dream Team. And it really is a classic of Wasteland and Daze. It's how Magic the Gathering was meant to be played. Just mashing your opponent's resources just that little bit. Alright, we're going to get some big information about what our opponent's playing this turn, I think. Let's see. A Volcanic Island. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. Alright. I'm not going to Daze this. I'm going to untap in my turn, and then we're going to Lightning Bolt this. Another Force. Alright, maybe we can just ride this Delver all the way. Let's bolt this. Let's attack. And because our hand doesn't do very much else here, we're definitely wastelanding. This means that our Daze is quite likely to be on. And then we can also back up with a Force of Will. Our plan is to keep our opponent off balance for 3 more turns. And kill them with our Insect Aberration. Sure, you can have a Bauble. There's a Wasteland. You can do that if you want. Sure, we've kind of got what we need in play for the most part. If they're taking their own lands out of play, that's not the end of the world for us. We do need to defend this Delver at this point, I think, though. Another blue card is fine. Another blue card. Alright, so we have Force of Will, blue card, Force of Will, blue card, and Daze. So our opponent's going to need a lot to try and stop this. This is more like an old-fashioned tempo-y start. Alright, what have you got for us, opponent? You could be playing Murktide. Alright, so I'm going to float a mana. I would like to Daze this. We've got 1 mana in our pool, so I will pay for the Daze here. Okay, you can have this Daze. I would like to Force of Will your Murktide Regent. A Portent. Sure. I think we're in a situation again where we need to stop at the top of our opponent's deck. Weirdly. So we are going to do this with the Portent. Oh yeah, you can keep all of those cards. Yeah, basically we're just doing that so we could push a Lightning Bolt further down. So we know whatever they're... Oh my god, and a Daze. Just a classic old-fashioned tempo in here. You love to see it. Alright, start cracking this Delta. That doesn't change the clock because 5 and 6 are the same here. No, thank you. Always use the Dazes when you can. We just need to counterspell 1 more spell, in theory, to win this game. That's what our opponent's working with over there. Chain Lightning, you say. Okay. That could do enough here. Oh, we drew a blue card. Love it. Only 1 card of removal here. What would I like to pitch? I think we'll pitch this. If we find another blue source, we can make the Murktide, but I'm hoping to just win the game this turn. Maybe that's wrong. Alright, we just gave them a good old-fashioned tempo in. But they are on a straight-up red-blue build because they're running Chain Lightning. That's what that tells me. We would like some removal spells. We would like some counterbalances. We would like to remove our Force of Wills. You've seen this song and dance enough times today, haven't you? But there we go. I do not believe our opponent has other colours in their deck. We will run it like this, and we will play the 4th Delver Mirror of the day. We have a turn 1 threat. We have a Pyroblast, which is a key spell in this matchup. We have some Brainstorms and stuff. This seems good to me. We want our opponent to play a Ponder on turn 1 rather than a threat. Okay, they don't have a Dragon's Rage Channel on turn 1. That's good. Do they have anything else? Like a Delver or something? No Delver. Okay. This is pretty good for us. Can we draw a mana source? No. Okay, so we are on basic island here. We can't just be dead, Stone Cold dead to a Wasteland. But we have a Daze, so we can mess with whatever they're doing next turn. Alright. So our opponent's got... So this is what our library wants to do for us. Volcanic Island. We will not reveal this. I will cast a Brainstorm now. And set this up for next turn. Do I care about this Daze? Not really. Let's go attacks. Right, we're never paying for there anyway because we need to hold up a Pyroblast for... interesting. How important is this? Right, let's Brainstorm. If they interact, we can then Daze. Alright, so we are Brainstorm locked a little here. We can Daze our... We actually, we can't Daze our own Brainstorm because it's already resolved. What am I talking about? Yeah, I guess we're putting this Murktide on the back. That's not really helping us here. And we'll put the Ponder back and we'll draw that next turn. And that'll also flip our Delver. Goodbye, Volcanic Island. And then we're settling into a game that's looking a little bit like the first one in some respects. Let's flip this. Draw our little Ponder. Play this out so we can play around a Daze. Let's cast a Ponder. Murktide Regent on the bottom. Murktide Regent underneath that. And then I'll have this Volcanic. And then we'll start jamming Murktide Regents next turn. I don't think we can throw away a Volcanic there. And if we use all the spells in our hand, we can play more Murktides. A Lightning Bolt. I think we're counterspelling that. It's just another thing to exile to a Murktide. I don't think a Wasteland is on their land is that useful here. We can use it to like take out their untapped source at some point and stick a Murktide. That's more what I'm interested in. Right, so let's cast this Murktide. Blue, blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, we're just in. Now I'm more inclined to do stuff with our Wasteland to make our Dazes better. But we're not going to be able to stop them from Pyroblasting us. Right, a green source, that's a much better prize for a Wasteland. So then they are on a green splash, but they're just running the Chain Lightning probably over the Unholy Heat. That's interesting. I think it changes how we board here. Okay, you would like to Lightning Bolt our guy. You would like to Lightning Bolt our guy again. We could Daze twice, but that's not going to stop them. We could take this... Oh, we've done the wrong timing here. We're supposed to do this in the main phase, so that if they have Seek the Beast, they don't get the cards for as long. That's what they're trying to play around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're not quite up to this Murktide again, but if we fire off some Lightning Bolts and some Dazes, then we're okay. These other Dazes are kind of chewing a hole in our pocket right now, though. There's a Wasteland. We can counter the Wasteland if you need to. We can Lightning Bolt them, bounce our Volcanic. I think that is worth doing here. Holding priority, please. Oh my god, I did not hold priority properly. Jeez. That's really upsetting. We had the very clean play where we have a Daze there and we just messed that up because I was clearly not holding the alt key, the control key. I must have been hitting the shift key or something. Ah dear. Apologies for that one. Right, there is a Bauble. And now that Lightning Bolt just looks really weird. That probably does tell them that we have the Daze and we just made the mistake. That's what I would read that as. I would just assume my opponent is a clown. Okay. Like another blue source does give us Murktide. It's not going to be a very big Murktide, but we do get to defend it with 2 Dazes. Then untap into Pyroblasts, in theory. Well, actually, any... Yeah, that's pretty good. These Dazes are looking terrible. I'm looking forward to putting them in our deck with a Brainstorm and forgetting about them forever. Okay. A little misstep is probably going to cost us this game. It was, rather than a misplay, it was a low roll on my dexterity in real life. So, almost like I might have been partying too hard this weekend. But I regret nothing. Okay, so we've got this Mishra's Bauble coming in. And we've got this little friend pecking away for 1. That's fine. That's not a big clock. Let's draw a land and have a nice time. It's not a land, but it's a spell we get to cast. If we find a land, our hand has a lot of juice. So we get to do lots of good things with it. A Lightning Bolt targeting our Delver of Secrets. This is not worth us dazing here. Like, we might be able to daze into a Murktide that they play. If they go like cantrip into Murktide or something, we might be able to actually get a little bit of joy that way. Yep, more baubles. Opponent has drawn all 4 of their baubles now, which is not really what you want. Like, having 1 in the graveyard is about all you really want, and then you'd rather have real cantrips. I can't be annoyed about that. And get smashed up with their little guy. A Murktide that we can't actually do anything about because they've left 1 mana up to play around the Daze. Pyroblast needs to come off the top very soon. Sorry, not Pyroblast. Volcanic Island, or access to 1. Okay, I imagine this will get counterspelled if they have 1. I think we fight over this Ponder with a Daze here. We can't fight over it because it's a Daze they've chosen to use. Yep, that's pretty good. Alright. So, I don't know if we get to have any shot at winning this game at all now. Because of our little misplay around that Wasteland, I think we are just cooked. Because this is going to take us to like 4 or something. Yeah. Yeah, alright. My own physical inability to hit the control key when I put that spell on the stack has cost me there. On the play, do I want Dazes? Honestly, I'm not. I like having the Dazes, but I don't think that's what this game's usually about. So I think our boarding was fine. Okay. Kind of similar to what we had before, but double ponders are nice. Let's get our little friend. Let's play one of these out. I think we'll play them both out. We'll fire 1 now at our opponent. Okay, let's have a Wasteland. Sure. And then we'll fire the other one at ourselves in their turn, so we get to do the little Delver trick. So we get to look at the top card and decide if we want to draw that first. Okay, a Wasteland. That's not really where I want to be, but sometimes it does just steal games, as we've seen. Had a couple of games just go awry from an opposing Wasteland. A Pyroblast. Okay. We have one other Wasteland on top, do we? Is that the game we're playing here? Let's just Wasteland our opponent first. It's our turn to be that guy. I do love being that guy, to be fair. Counterbalance is nice. I like that one. I think we probably want all of these lands, considering what we have on top of our library and in hand. Now, the counterbalance isn't going to be amazing to start with, but it's going to be a thing they'll fight over, and it might just be the end of the game. Preordain. Now, the other option we have is to just take our land, wasteland them, and just carry on. They put 2 cards on the top. Interesting. Considering we know our counterbalance isn't going to do anything, I think I'm actually just going to wasteland our opponent here. And we know our ponder. We know what the top card of our library is. I think I'm okay pondering here. Just fills up our graveyard, get some stuff going. I don't really want these. I'm going to go any order and shuffle, I think. Alright. A Brainstorm, sure. So, like, finding a Daze there is pretty handy because it lets us protect our counterbalance, potentially. So, they put 2 cards on top. I wonder what the 2 cards they put on top. Maybe... Okay, 2 bottom this time. The Mishra's Bauble is actually quite useful versus a counterbalance. They don't know a counterbalance is in their future, though. Do I play a counterbalance into Daze, or do I Questing Druid here? I think it's the counterbalance into Daze. They kept in... How many days have they kept in? Do they have one in hand? They do have one in hand, sure. So this continues the mana denial strategy slightly by bouncing a land for the turn. I think I'd rather get that counter than the Questing Druid, because Questing Druid is just guaranteed card advantage. Alright, I think we hold up Lightning Bolt and Emergency Brainstorm, and then we just Seek the Beast in our opponent's turn. This means we can also find the Pyroblast off of the Seek the Beast. The time for our opponent in a matchup to be Brainstorm locked. Okay. Let's go Chasing Beasts. A Daze. That's an interesting piece of protection we have access to there. That means we kind of want to make a move on our turn doing something. Right. So I think we crack this. Get our Trop. Play our Questing Druid. And we'll cast our free Brainstorm. And the whole while we have this Daze queued up. Start growing the boy. Haven't really done much with Questing Druid this league. Okay. I like all of the cards that have been presented to me, which is not somewhere you always find yourself. So what are we hiding? We don't need a Murktide right now. So if we put Lightning Bolt on top and then the Murktide, so next time we can play Delver and it'll flip. That seems good to me. And we already have a Lightning Bolt in hand, so it's not like we're reducing our options of cards we can play. Alright, so now they're casting after our end step, which is when our cards disappear from the Questing Druid Seeking the Beast adventure side. Alright, our opponent is shuffling away the cards they've just brainstormed on top of their library. You can see a Lightning Bolt as well? No. But we've got some big haymakers in the tank. Yeah, we've got Murktide, we've got our little Questing Druid already, obviously, but we have the Delver of Secrets. I think if our opponent has a removal spell, they should be firing off now, because this Questing Druid is going to get out of control otherwise, unless it's some sort of removal spell that doesn't care about the size, so maybe like an Unholy Heat that can have a little bit more purchase, but I still think you need to clean it up straight away when you can. We're probably losing access to red mana. Sure, that goes away. They should be hitting our Volcanic here to cut off Pyroblast. Yep, there it goes. And then a Preordain, sure. So we can jam a Murktide into Daze, or we can jam Delver of Secrets into Ponder. I think I would rather do the Delver into Ponder and try and secure another land drop. Or we could do into Brainstorm, actually. Find the land drop. That seems a little bit better. Okay, so we found a land drop. Again, we want all of the cards that have been presented to us. So I think we'll put the Lightning Bolt on top and then the Druid. Does mean our Delver's not flipping this turn. But I think that's okay. I think just what we want to do is just keep churning value. Because like this Delver isn't the threat we're trying to win the game with. This is the threat we're trying to soak up some interaction from. Right, so we're going to see the top card of our library and see it's a druid. This means when we seek the beast, we'll actually get the lightning bolt. Attack. Actually, no, we won't even get the lightning bolt, will we? Yeah, but we'd rather have the Questing Beast than the lightning bolt, so that makes sense. And again, I think we are just in the holding up, playing around Daze for our Seek the Beast plan. Our opponent has one. Sure. What did they find? A lightning bolt and a Murktide Regent. Those are both good Magic the Gathering cards. So I'm going to clean up our Delver and then play a Murktide. And then we will Questing Druid in response to see if we find a Daze, because that gives us a nice clean answer to the Murktide without having to use our Pyroblast. But then if we have to use our Pyroblast, that's also fine. Or they might play the Murktide first and then play the Bolt into a Daze, which is the smarter way, I think, of sequencing those two. Yep, our opponent agrees. Let's crack this for a red source. Alright, we lose our guy. We're going to be dumping a big Murktide on our opponent's lap. And killing their Murktide, which is going to be step 1. Pretty happy to find another land as well. So let's Pyroblast this. So what do we have here? 2 ponders. Quite a few instants. We have an instant and a sorcery in hand. Sure, we'll just make the biggest one we can make, because that means if our opponent makes a smaller one, we at least beat it in combat. Now we can make this one even bigger next turn, if we can put like the lightning bolt in and eat that, but then our second one won't be as large. We both have a Questing Druid to reach for. Sure, you can bounce our guy. It's a little bit sad, but I can live with that. Our opponent loves these Mishra's Baubles. They keep drawing them all. Right, our clocks are pretty similar on time-wise, but I think 12 minutes should be enough to finish this game. More Murktides, you say? Alright, I think we are in casting Questing Druid, casting Ponder, growing the lad. Right, our opponent is going to lightning bolt our guy. Sure. We can do a similar play to our opponent. Delver of Secrets. If we put the Flooded Strand on the bottom, then the Stern Dismissal, then the Delver. Say no to this. Put the land out just in case we need it in a pinch. Then we'll play out the Delver here. This will flip to a Stern Dismissal, which we can use to bounce their Druid, which is not a great play, but we can do it to reset the counters. But we are hoping to lightning bolt it. So it's their Questing Druid here. They have 4 cards in hand. What is the card they play here? A Lightning Bolt. So now we have to decide if we want the Stern Dismissal on top of our library. I don't think we do. So I think this is the moment we crack this. Get ourselves another red source. Bolt their guy. And hope they don't have the Daze. I don't like this pause at all. They do have a Daze. Yuck. Alright. That's a real issue for us here. Well, we've put a bunch of stuff in so we can make some big Murktides. Yeah, not ideal. Okay. Ponder, this is basically free to cast for us here. In terms of playing our Murktides out. A Bauble, a Channeler. I like the Channeler. I don't really like the other bits that much. We're going to get any order in shuffle. Our opponent has 1 card in hand. If it's something that counteracts our lightning bolt, that's going to be horrific. I think the plan is play a little Murktide. We have to put 1 instant in there so it doesn't get killed by lightning bolt. Then we play another one. This is the bigger one. Alright. We've now got some large boys. Next turn we can give them +1/+1 each by bolting them and then doing this. Although if we bolt them and give them +1/+1, so then they'll be on 14. And this is 9 at the moment. So it's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're not quite lethal yet. I drew another Borrower on our big one. Sure. That's a little bit annoying. Now we get into a weird situation where can they trade their Questing Druid for our Murktide? I think we take that trade because we have all these other Murktides, but it doesn't feel amazing. So if we bolt our opponent, they go to 14. Then we attack them down for 6. They go to 8. Alright, so they've just got their own Murktide that's probably going to be bigger than ours. This is an issue. Only a 6/6. Okay. I think we trade this here. I don't like it, but I think it's what we have to do. Yeah, our opponent is ahead. But like one cantrip off the top or something can suddenly unlock a whole bunch of things. Oh my god, a Pyroblast. I love you, Pyroblast. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we just make what we can make here. There's only a 4/4. The way our opponent played that Murktide makes me think they have another one, unfortunately. Because they didn't make it max size. There is a Brainstorm. But we can Lightning Bolt and then improve the size of our Murktide by exiling this. Dragon's Rage Channeler, that's a very good Lightning Bolt target. A Pyroblast. We'll let them Surveil, not knowing what's going to happen here. Then Pyroblast resolves, then we'll kill this end of turn. Right, a very grindy one as expected. Not a cantrip. Blue. Blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Leaving a creature in. Right, we have a 4/4, which is bigger than a 3/1, which is what their creatures are. But they can double block and trade, and they've already got some reasonable value off of the borrowers. Ponder, yep. Wouldn't mind seeing one of those. We've kind of distilled this game into top deck wars after all's been said and done. Both 17 apiece. Both got like 4 lands in play. Oh, I got 5 lands in play. They got a couple of borrowers. Oh, Seek the Beast though. That's savage. I'm not sure they're supposed to play it then. Oh my god, they found the Pyroblast. I guess they pondered. They didn't shuffle off their ponder, did they? Yeah, they didn't shuffle their ponder, so they knew this was coming, so that's fine. Right about that. And they're going to take out our green source now, so we can't play a Druid. I believe that's what they're going to do. Not sure why you wait till my turn to do it if you're definitely doing it anyway. But right, our opponent is very far ahead now. We need to draw well to get back into this. Okay, we've drawn terribly there, so that's not great. Like, they are certainly threatening to cap out on their mana usage. They might play into this Daze. Like, if they just play their Druid out and then try their Borrower, we get to Daze the Borrower. And that's not nothing. Yeah, this is why they didn't use the Wasteland, because they're not going to take themselves off of the mana for Borrower. A Murktide Regent, though. Yikes. Yeah, our opponent's rips are certainly besting ours right now. We need to find a Pyroblast, like, now. Or ideally find some sort of cantrip or something that actually helps us win the game. And sort of get our wheels spinning along. Yeah, so like our channeler isn't even remotely useful. So this is where you see Borrower looking a lot better than something like Stern Dismissal, because they still got 6 power with evasion just loaded up, ready to go. And now they've got 2-turn clock. They're bashing for 10 here. Yikes. I think we need to keep this because we might need the ability to mess with stuff here. Yep, so they're going to gain 1 counter on this. We're going to need the ability to mess with the top cards of our library if we're going to get out of this one. And this can prevent more damage next turn because we can put it in front of the Druid that's going to be bigger, or possibly put it in front of the Murktide if we can flip it. We are not attacking. We don't get to do anything here. That's not entirely true, is it? So what do we have in our graveyard right now? 3 things. So if we hold priority, cast Dragon's Rage Channeler, Daze our Dragon's Rage Channeler, picking this up, get a Surveil trigger. A land is not the one, is it? We needed these to flip. We needed this to be like an artifact or a sorcery, because now they just have us dead in the air. GG, opponent. Oh, that was a pretty brutal league, playing 4 Delver mirrors, and we split them 2 and 2. The ones we lost, we definitely drew worse than our opponent. Although that last matchup, I think we lost it where I didn't hold control when I thought I was holding control, and we didn't get to bounce our land and save it, because we finished that game with 7 good cards in hand that we could have cast if we just had that Volcanic Island in play. Now, we don't know if our opponent had more Wastelands they were sandbagging. We don't know what the other I think they finished with 4 cards in their hands. They might have just had some other stuff that could have shut us down anyway. But that manual dexterity in real life failed me there, which is a shame. All right, let's talk about the deck. So clearly we're just doing things that are powerful. What I will say is the one tropical island does feel slightly awkward at times. Now I know what we're trying to do with it is just have it as a thing that we get when we go and cast the Questing Druid. But at any point where we have to play it out and it gets wastelanded, that does cut off a lot of value from our Questing Druids. We can't use them as a threat, and that just strips away something that is very potent at winning games when you sort of get into stalls and you can just play all your cantrips and then you get extra value from them. So that is something that is a little bit awkward with this list, I think. But I think if you play more tropical islands, you have to trim the island. And the island was actually quite good and we reached for it a lot today. Now, we did play 4 Delver Mirrors, which is not necessarily what you'd expect out of a league. So it's a bit of a weird meta for us today. Nevertheless, I think the basic island was useful. Not so convinced about having 1 trop. If we have 2 trops and only 3 Volks, I don't think that's good either. I don't think we're trimming any of our fetch lands. I think if you want the second trop, it probably has to come at the expense of a spell slot. So maybe you're cutting one of the portents so you have access to a second trop in your deck. I think that is probably pretty reasonable. You could also trim a Bauble for the additional trop. I don't hate that as a strategy, especially if you're expecting a Delver heavy matchup, Delver heavy meta, which when a Delver deck just wins Eternal Weekend, you're probably going to see a little bit more Delver, people just trying it out as well. So maybe that's where you want to go with this. Stern Dismissal was okay. I think Brazen Borrower would have done most of the same things, often better. But one thing that we did do with Stern Dismissal was flip Delver's Secrets, which is something that Brazen Borrower doesn't do. So it's not like one card is strictly better than the other. We're slightly more in on playing our Delvers and doing our things. But I think if you want to play a build that's more focused around getting your Delvers to do their thing, I would consider, obviously, if you know me, you know my love for classic rug tempo, like Canadian Threshold style. I would be tempted to try and go back to the old days of Stifle and try and go hyper tempo and see how that feels in the meta. Which is something I'll probably play possibly next week. But after next week, it is Depth December, which is where we're playing some weird and wonderful Dark Depths decks all month long. So buckle in for that one when the time comes. But I can easily see how this deck won the event. We're doing powerful things here. It is a Delver deck, which is a known quantity that is just very strong and solid and does all the things that you would kind of expect a Delver deck to do. Questing Druid basically just to Seek the Beast in our deck is kind of interesting. Even though we did cast it a couple of times, it did feel like we weren't getting quite as much value off of it as some of our opponents in the games we lost. But like other than that, like the Delver deck is a known entity that's pretty much sorted with just a few little tweaks. I think some of our sideboard cards felt pretty dead today because of the weird skew of matchups we had. I would have liked to have played other matchups and see how this deck feels into those matchups. I think that's going to give me a better idea of what this deck is, but just playing into Delver Mirrors isn't going to necessarily give you the best showcase of what this deck does and, you know, how it can navigate different matchups and find the right tools, because we were kind of just in these massive slogfests where we're exchanging resources. I think there was like maybe 2 games that we played that were just a straight up like tempo beaten down. And the rest of it was all we're trading resources out, and then we kind of ended up with a level field and who can kind of break that parity. And a lot of the time it was us, but sometimes it was our opponent. And obviously the Orcish Bowmaster's deck was quite good at doing that. And in the last one, our opponent had quite a few good rips there. Like they had, was it Ponder into Seek the Beast, into Pyroblast for our guy, into the Murktide. So, you know, we're going to lose to that. And that, you know, that's fine. That is part of Magic. And sometimes it happens for them. Sometimes it happens for you. And there's no point getting mad about it. It's about what you can learn along the way and how you can improve it. Like, there are things you can't change in Magic. You know, what your opponent draws and stuff. Well, actually, that's not true. we can decide what our opponent draws with Portent, which we did a couple of times. But yeah, the general rule, you can't really stop the Winds of Fate from, you know, putting the cards where they are in the decks and stuff. You know, it's randomized. Stuff's going to happen that way. So you're going to get matchups, you know, that are going to be bad or good. You have to navigate that and hope you get lucky in a tournament to some extent, because, you know, you can have the best deck in the world, but if you have a bad matchup and just play it 4 times in a row, then that's it. But with that being said, there are things that you can't influence, but there are lots of things you can. You know, little slight subtle differences you can play and you can tweak and you can learn. And I think that's what you should focus on, even if it feels like, oh, I just got unlucky. Well, did you? You know, was there anything you could have done differently? And if so, would that have been a good play or not? Because sometimes, you know, the right play is the play that ends up losing you the game. You know, you play the odds-on number for like, okay, 80% of the time this is the right play, but sometimes it's not that 80% of the time, and then you get done. So it's just a case of navigating things and learning. Anyway, sorry, tangent aside. I think this deck is very good. It's not quite the exact list I would play if I wanted to play like a Questing Druid deck. I think I would want the additional trop, but it's not far away from where I want to be. The portents seem fine. Like in that last game, if we were starting, you know, if we drew our cantrips before our opponent did, then we'd probably win that game. Like a lot of those matchups come down to who draws the most cantrips and gets to set up their deck the best. Especially since our cantrips are also fuel for growing our druid and our Murktide. Alright, I think we are done for today. I hope you enjoyed watching a powerful tournament-winning deck from the weekend. Once again, congratulations to Julian Jakobovits. Apologies if I've butchered your name. I've tried my best there. I did put it into Google to have a look. So there we go. Alright. Yeah, congratulations. And if you want some Delver, you should definitely try this out. I think everyone has their own personal slants and flavours of Delver that works for them. Because it's a deck that you get to manipulate the deck so much and play your own slight playstyle to it and what you're looking for, I think there is a lot of wiggle room for the flex slots in the deck. Anyway, now we're done. Remember to like and subscribe. Please check out the Patreon if you have time. I appreciate all the support the people on there are already giving me, and I appreciate the support I get from people just watching my channel. It really does help and makes me want to keep doing it. So thank you once again. And I'm going to bed. So goodbye.